Well, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for hitting that play button today. As I'm headed to run an errand, I figured I'd go ahead and just shoot this Friday video for you guys. You know, I've gotten some emails from people, and a lot of them have been from people that seen my other videos where I did a 5-video series about how me and my wife became millionaires and how we built our wealth and, you know, the decisions we made and different things like that. And so, you know, of course, with everything that's happening in the world today, you know, this particular person, and I thought it was something that I wanted to address. And that is, you know, what am I doing financially, you know, as far as, you know, I've been, you know, I own real estate. We own, you know, a lot of non-retirement funds. Let me put it this way, we did. We have, of course, retirement funds. We have Roth IRAs and then IRAs. And, you know, again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm just sharing with you what we're doing. You know, there's a lot of things that have happened, and a lot of times in life, it's kind of like a magic trick. Or, you know, if you've ever seen the ball underneath the shell, and, you know, they move them around and you're thinking you're following, yeah, that's it right there, and it's not it. A lot of things can be used to make people think one thing when it's really something else. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a real political person. I'm not, you know, I'm just your average guy that's out there. So, I mean, I'd be one of those guys you would meet and you would just think, you know, he's just an average guy. But I'm also constantly watching things. Maybe sometimes things that a lot of people don't look at just because of my financial background, my background in being a small business owner, you know, being able to see trends, being able to be out in my community and seeing different things. You know, like way out in the middle of the ocean, they have these buoys, and these buoys send signals back to Noah that let them know about, you know, waves and so forth. So you know, if something should happen way out in the Pacific Ocean, that they would be able to warn people of a tsunami. They would be able to warn people that, hey, this is about to happen, or tornado warnings or whatever. Because a lot of times we, you know, as I've mentioned in past videos, we just get busy living. We're just living. We're going through life, and yeah, we're watching maybe some news, and, you know, you watch too much of that, it starts warping your mind. So you got to be careful what you're putting in. I've gotten to where I can almost, you know, I can't tolerate more than probably 10 or 15 minutes of just the news. You know, I try to watch a little bit of the local, a little bit of the national. I'm watching more of stock market things like that, which I'm not watching that as much anymore, just simply because me and my wife have decided, we talked to our broker a couple of weeks ago, and anything that wasn't in a retirement account, like our Roth IRAs or 401ks, things like that, we pulled it all out of the market. I sold. You know, back in March when the stock market fell all the way to 18, you know, we were like, holy cow. I mean, when you see $175,000 of your money just evaporate, your 401k money just out of thin air in 2 weeks, you know, it will yank your chain a little bit. And, you know, just sitting back and, you know, I was like, you know, we'll just wait to see what happens. And all of a sudden, you know, the government starts printing money like crazy, and the stock market record, I mean, it goes from 18.5 to 27. I mean, in like a month and a half, 2 months. I mean, that's insane. That tells you how much liquidity the Feds put into the market to stabilize it. And so once it did come back up, and we were at that point where, you know, we had regained all of our losses, I called my broker. We, you know, couldn't go and talk to him on Zoom, and said, hey man, I'm pulling it out. And he says, hey, I don't blame you at all. I mean, you know, these guys are in business to be a fiduciary. They're there to, you know, not really look at what they're going to make, even though that is a part of the thing. But he was like, hey, I understand. I've got a lot of customers doing that. Pulled everything out. I mean, north of, I'm not going to get into the amounts, but a lot of money. And so we pulled it out, put it in money market accounts, pulled out some of it. and put it in some other things that are going to be a lot safer than the stock market. But we're starting to see some things happening. If you would have told me back in March that toilet paper will be scarce, I would have said you were crazy. If you would have told me that you could go into the grocery store and there would be no beef, there would be very little poultry, things like that, I would have told you you're crazy. If you would have told me that all these stores like Dunkin' Donut closing down 400 stores, Neiman Marcus filing bankruptcy, all these big brick and mortar places going by the wayside. And then in my local community here, I'm seeing it. Let me know down in the comments, what's it like where you're at? Put maybe the city you're from and what you're seeing. Because I'm sure that this is happening all over the place. I know here in Tulsa, I've never seen, if you're in the business of making tents right now, you're making good money. And it's not because people are going to the lakes. People are living in these things. Our local food bank downtown have had many lines down there. They've reported on it here. So not only do we have a financial crisis, we have a social crisis, we have a health crisis. We have a stock market that is, so far out of touch with what's going on that, it doesn't make any sense. The stock market's creeping up a little bit, but I really am anticipating a serious fall in that. And so, you can't predict the markets, but all I can look is at the signs. If you see a lot of clouds coming, you probably know there's a storm coming. And so that's what we've done. That money will be sitting on the sidelines. Maybe we'll get in and buy some things at a discount later on when it falls. It's not something that we need now. I'm not worried about losing any, interest or anything like that. But yeah, not only that, we've put some cash, in a place that we can get to it if we need to. But that I would highly recommend that if you're not preparing yourself right now, that you do. A lot of people say this is America, it can't fall. My friend, it can fall. We've already seen we never thought that you could shut down everything that's been shut down. You may live in a state right now that's a lot different from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we have some guidelines where a lot of things aren't mandatory. People are somewhat still working. Businesses are still, being able to open and do different things. But there are a lot of people in a lot of states that, my goodness, they haven't been to work in 3 months. And, they've been on unemployment. Maybe you're on unemployment. And, they've been getting that additional $600. But all that's going to end at the end of this month. Well, what happens then? You got a lot of people in forbearance on their homes. You got a lot of people not making car payments. They said for the month of June, it was like 32% of people didn't pay their rent or mortgage. And this is a massive issue. And, again, if you watch the media, if you watch different things, there's not a whole lot of people crying and saying, hey, you better watch out. I think you have a lot of people on YouTube that are probably saying you better watch out. Just because, again, what we've seen so far is something that we've never seen before. And I'm just, again, I'm not a gloom and doom type person, but I also feel that you need to be prepared, that you don't just stick your head in the sand and say, hey, nothing's going to happen. I truly believe that we're in store for some serious issues. And if you don't have your house in order financially, right now is a good time to sell some things if you don't use it. And, people who are seem to be financially set right now from the outside, from a distance looking in, things are going to change if, they lose their job and they don't have any money coming in. When 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that's when things are going great, what's it going to be like whenever things aren't great? And, at some point, the federal government's got to stop printing money. They've got to stop injecting liquidity into the markets. And, when you have U.S. Airlines saying, hey, we're probably going to shed half our working staff, which is 36,000 people, and you start getting the domino effect of, what's happening in sports. They're doing everything they possibly can to have a rinky-dink NBA season, if you're into that. They're talking about, you already had the Ivy League schools that says, hey, we're not even playing football this upcoming fall. And, you know, a lot of these universities are heavily dependent upon these football programs. Maybe not so much the Ivy League, but definitely, you know, your Power 5 conferences. And when you have a major university with a huge endowment like Stanford saying, hey, we're axing 11 programs. My friends, there's some, again, I don't believe in fear, because I don't believe I've been given a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. But I also believe that you need to be cognizant about what's going on and see things and be prepared for it. So as you go into this weekend, you know, start thinking about some things. Matter of fact, you know, here in our local area, I don't know if you have this problem where you are, but you go in somewhere and you buy something, and they have, a lot of them will have little things up there saying they don't have any change. So if you pay with cash, they're giving you a gift card with the change on it, because there's a shortage of change. I know here at the local where I bank at, usually used to be able to go there and take out $1,000. Now the limit is on there is like $500, and I know that they've been talking about shortages of cash in ATMs. So again, you know, I don't want to be fear. I don't want to create fear. All I want is to make sure that you're prepared. Have some cash. So if something happens, who knows what might happen, you've got some setting aside. You know, don't go down and buy, 20 packs of toilet paper or anything like that, which, but if toilet paper could be a major issue 3 months ago, don't you think money could be a major issue if this thing goes south? I think it probably could, and it probably will. So, again, just be prepared. Just a food for thought for this Friday going into the weekend, because I think it's important for us all to see what's going on around us and not just think that everything's going to be what it's always been. This country's changing before our very eyes, and if you're not really prepared for that, then I think there's some people are going to have some major issues. But guys, I appreciate each and every one of you, and we will see you on Tuesday morning. Have a blessed and godly weekend.